Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa. Sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man walaha ma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, in this episode, I wanted to reflect on one verse from Surah Ash-Shura, verse number 27, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala presents us with a hypothetical scenario and the consequences of that hypothetical scenario had He allowed it to happen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولو بسط الله الرزق لعباده لبغوا في الأرض ولكن ينزل بقدر ما يشاء إنه بعباده خبير بصير. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that had Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala given in abundance to all of His servants, then they would have transgressed on the earth. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends down or gives in proportion to what He wills. And indeed Allah is all aware and all seeing of His servants. This particular verse reminds us of the outcomes of our du'as. We believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all seeing, all hearing and all knowing of our du'as. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts all of our du'as, that He hears all of our du'as, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what we will ask for before we even think of asking for it. Yet when a person makes du'a, they obviously do not see the outcome of their du'a as they wished for it all the time. So what are we supposed to believe or expect from Allah when it comes to the acceptance of our du'as? Well, we have one of three outcomes. Number one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you exactly what you had wished for, what you had asked for. It might be soon, it might be later, but you get exactly what you asked for. And if you think about it, this is going to be perhaps the smallest category of outcomes, simply because if Allah granted every person, even though He has the power to do so, if Allah had granted every person exactly what they wished for, then this world would be in chaos. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not give us always exactly what we ask for. This leads to the second outcome. The second outcome of all of our du'as is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, instead of giving us exactly what we ask for, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us something else in return. It might be something that we never expected. It might be something that we never considered. It might be something that we never thought about and we never thought it would be better for us. But Allah in His wisdom and knowledge and mercy knows that it is better for us. So instead of what we ask for, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us something better. And we believe in this. In lieu of our du'as being given in any other form, Allah could also remove a trial or a difficulty from our life. We don't know what challenges may be placed in our lives and what challenges may have been removed because of our du'as. We might not have known about that challenge, or we might not have asked Allah to remove that challenge from our life. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His wisdom and mercy, in lieu of granting us exactly what we wished for or giving us something else in return, Allah removes a harmful difficulty from our life. Outcome number three is where a person's du'a is kept in reserve in the hereafter. That they are able to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for anything that they wish in the hereafter, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant their du'a in the hereafter. And Allah reminds us through this ayah why it is exactly the case that everything that we ask for is not granted to us in this world, even though it is very difficult to accept at times. Because we, in our finite perspective, we think we know what is best for us. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a particular outcome. We work towards a particular goal, and ultimately we see that all of our efforts have been for nothing. That exactly what I wanted, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not granted it to me. And a person can feel very despondent. A person might feel that their dua was not accepted, that why weren't they granted this particular blessing which they truly wanted. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that if He had given everything that His servants had asked for, if the world was literally open to us and the treasures of the world were accessible to every person, which one of us would turn to Allah in a time when there was no need to? Which one of us would turn to Allah when we seemingly had everything that we needed at our feet? Would you and I turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if we didn't have anything to ask for? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wisdom in holding back some of the things is for our own benefit. It's for our own good, because Allah knows that perhaps if He were to grant us this blessing, it would take us further away from Allah. It might cause a difficulty that we would be unable to overcome. We don't know. But we trust in the judgment of Allah. We trust in the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we trust in the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has absolutely given us something better in return, or that we will absolutely get that outcome either in this world or in the next. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide, bless and protect us all, and accept all of our du'as and give us the best outcomes of all of those du'as, and give us the ability to accept the outcomes of all of the du'as, whether we know it or not. May Allah guide, bless and protect us all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.